Hi guys. With this card I was going to do a voiceover, which is hopefully what this is. I'm having a lot of issues, but basically I wanted to record the sound so that you didn't have more music. I know some of you like hearing somebody talk you through a video, so this is in real time. I'm not going to speed it up or anything, and I'm using Stampin' Up's Jar of Love stamp set, which came out I think it's been out for a little while. I'm not sure if it's still in the latest catalogue, but nonetheless I thought I'd use that for this video. And I think that Stampin' Up ink pad there was Soft Sky, hopefully to give the illusion of glass, so that's why I decided to use that. The next stamp I'm going to use is the fill-in water part of the stamp set, so it gives the illusion that there's water in the jar. And I think the colour I used for this was Pool Party. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head because obviously I didn't make notes and I'm just winging it at this point. And if this works, then great, I'll do my voiceovers even better. Let's see. Oh, I remember what happened here. You'll see it doesn't stamp properly, even though I'm pressing fairly hard. There's obviously a spot, or I must have some sort of dip in my craft mat. So I tried to go over it again, but obviously you don't want to double stamp. You'll end up with like a shadow around it. So in a minute I'm going to get the Crafter's Companion clear sparkle pen, and use that to essentially add the colour in. So what you would do with your Stampin' Up ink pad is when it's closed, you would just give it a bit of a squeeze. It will add some colour into what is the bottom of the lid container, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just picking up the colour and adding it in with the sparkle pen. Now you can use a normal watercolour brush. This isn't watercolour paper, but I just needed it to fill in that gap, otherwise it just looks a bit odd. So hence why I'm just picking up the colour and adding it in. And in the end I actually like the effect it gave. I think it was a combination of the colour and the paper and then the sparkle on top of it. It just, I don't know, it just gave this weird kind of texture. You'll see at the end when there's some some photos at the end of the project. So that is basically the water that's in the jar. I mean, I know it's obvious, but oh, the piece of cardstock, that white piece of cardstock it measures 4 by 5 1/4, so it's going to be the main panel on the card. And here I'm just picking up different foliage stamps that are in the stamp set, and there's a variety of colours coming up. I used quite a lot of green. Hopefully, because this isn't sped up, you'll be able to see. Yeah, so there's the pear pizzazz for this bit of foliage. And I've quite the more I'm using pear pizzazz at the moment, it's kind of become my go-to green. I don't know why, but it works really well for quite a lot of different, I guess, times of year. You could use this colour all year. I think you could use it at Christmas, you could use it in the fall for a bit of green. It's just got a nice tone to it, but it works really well for summer and spring cards as well. So I'm just stamping up, pardon the pun, a few more foliage in there. The thing with cards like this is to just keep adding layers of colour. I think with something like flowers and foliage, the more you've got in there, the nicer it can look. Obviously if you put too much in there, the colours will start to just meld together, whatever the word is, and you'll end up with almost like a muddy looking blob, which you don't want. Nobody wants that. So I missed what that colour was, sorry. Hopefully you caught that one. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, let me see if I can work out what that one was. I think that was Old Olive. Just having a look on my desk. We'll see in a second here. Oh no, yeah, but I think that was Old Olive. It doesn't really matter. I mean, this is Wild Wasabi. I remember this one. This is another lovely green. This is quite a light green as well. I was going to use the short stem, but it's not going to fit in that little jar. So there are some other jars in the set as well. There's a couple of different sizes. I think there's 3 sizes in the set, and so the shorter stems work well for obviously the shorter jars. There's also some other elements in there that you can add. I might make the next card, I might use some of the other bits that are in there, because I've not really used this stamp set. I mean, I love it. I mostly, when it came out, or when the Christmas and holiday catalogue came out, gosh, not last year, the year before, so what's that, 2016, they had a very cool, I'm a big Halloween Christmas fan, so they had this really cool these add-on stamp sets that you could buy that work with the die set for this Jar of Love stamp set, die set. So I bought both the stamp sets for, I think it was called Jar of Haunts and Jar of Cheer, if I'm not mistaken, and they are like the Christmas and Halloween version, or sort of add-on for that stamp set. And well, they incorporate the dies as well, not just the stamp set, but so here I've got 2 these are actually 2 flowers. They die cut together, which is why they stamped together, but they are 2 separate flowers that will die cut separately. And I don't know if you can see, there's like a little I want to say like a little pip the little pointed bit in the stamp should be at the top of the stamp now, if I've turned it the right way around. I think it is. Basically that's to help you line up the second layer. So this is the 2-step stamping. I think this was Peekaboo Peach, so it's a paler colour. You start with your paler colour first, and then Tangerine Tango for the darker colour that will sit on top, and you'll see it will give you this 3-dimensional, or this sort of dimensional look to your project. So I do love what do you call it, 2-step stamping, sometimes 3-step stamping. I mean, that's just amazing, because it's just layer upon layer building up an image, but it's just so pretty. I just think it looks so good. So that's the little flowers. That was my desk, by the way. In case you hear any and if you can hear any background noise, there is a lot. Our weather is weird here. I mentioned in my last video, I think, that the weather is so hot, and now the whole weekend it's just been pouring with rain, and quite cold actually. Today's quite a lot chillier than it has been. I love the rain, so I'm not bothered, but if you hear whooshing in the background, it's probably the rain and the wind outside. So there you go. Not very good with these voiceovers yet. I've missed that colour. This one I believe is something. Let me have a look. Sweet Sugar Plum, that's it. Sweet Sugar Plum for the base flower, and then to add the layer I'll use Berry Burst, which you'll see in a minute. This is kind of fun doing it this way. I'm hoping this works. If it works, then after all the drama today trying to work it out and know what mic to use and how to use it and connect it to my machine and all this sort of stuff, and now I'm using my phone, so fingers crossed guys, because this will be super if I can do it this way. And this way you can also see them in real time, or if it's a really long video I can then speed it up, but at least I'm talking to you guys instead of just music all the time, because I know sometimes some videos I think that's kind of fun, like I'm the same. Sometimes I find it a bit boring, because it's not because the video is boring, but just because you kind of just want to get to the next bit, whereas sometimes if somebody's talking to you, it kind of helps like go like past the time of the video, if that makes sense, so that you sort of walked through the video, if you like. Sorry about that. My camera died. Well, not my camera, my phone. Full. Lovely. Anyway, back to it. This is some of the dies there's all the dies that you get in the set. and there's, like I say, loads of them. And here I'm just using a bit of tape to take some of the on my hand, to take some of the tack off, so that you don't land up ripping your project. Obviously that's a priority. You don't want to go to all this effort and then have your project be ripped. So that's what I was doing there. So I'm just going to put these together, and then I'll be back in a second, like that, like magic. And I've die cut them out. I just ran them through my Big Shot. If you've got a Cuddlebug, if you've got any of the other, there's Spellbinders machines, there's all sorts of machines now. You just run it through the machine so it can die cut it. You can hand cut it as well if you want, so don't feel like you have to die cut them. And basically I'm now just going to arrange them somehow so that I can see, you know, how I can arrange them on the project. So I was counting the stems there, but actually the flowers turned out to be bigger than I thought. So where I'd actually arranged the stems, it didn't really matter how I had them. So you'll see in a minute. I'll just sort of put stuff together, and then I'll start again and just sort of go for it, basically. And you'll see that in a minute, when I decide what I'm doing, of course. So it's a fun project. I hadn't really used this part of the, you know, this stamp set part of this Jar of Love stamp set. I'd used the dies, obviously, like I said, with the Jar of Haunts and the Jar of Cheer, I think it's called, for the Halloween Christmas selection that we had in 2016. So that for me was what I bought the die set for, and then I thought, this is silly, I may as well get this stamp set as well. So that's what I did. So this is really the first real time. I mean, I've used some of the stamps before, but this is the first time I've really used it and made a full project with it. And like I say, hopefully this voiceover malarkey is working now, because I can't. I had so much trouble earlier, guys. Oh my word, it was awful. But I eventually had to go and have something to eat, because I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore. No. So I had to leave well alone for a bit, which is why I'm back now, having another go, see if I can get this to work. Obviously this way it's going to take up a lot more memory and stuff, so hopefully it will work, or I'll find another way to use my phone. I think there is a voiceover thing on here, but I'll have to learn how to use that. So this, I know this sounds really weird, but I'm using the camera with my microphone attached to it to record the voice. So the image is just of my mat. Lovely. But I had to get some sort of voiceover on this, because I just thought that's the new thing for me, is to make sure that I do the voiceovers rather than or just talk through the video rather than actually having music. I think it's time for a change. Change is good. So here I'm just taking some double-sided sticky back. If you've seen the back, if you've seen the previous video where I used the Lawn Fawn Huggables, no, Huggables? Where did that come from? Huggers, critter huggers, I think that's what it's called. Anyway, the double-sided foam is like leftover packaging from the foam dots. Don't not use your foam dots. It's just not your foam dots. Don't not use the leftovers. There's all those bits there. They're all sticky, so you may as well use them. So it's not to waste. And we're crafters. We don't waste stuff. We hoard it. That's how we roll. So yeah. So I'm just trying to decide where to put this, and keep changing my mind. I was going to put some of them on the inside, and then I changed my mind again, and you'll see in a minute I'll change my mind again. So it's kind of the joys of crafting. I also I decided that it was just the flowers almost too big to be that low down on the image, so I needed to move it up so that it's just in a better position. Yeah, that's better, I think, anyway. But no, and I couldn't leave that one little flower on its own either, so that had to go somewhere. Deciding. Can you see how everything stopped? I'm like, where should I, what should, do I, don't I, do I put it on, do I not put it on? I don't know. See, just going, looking at it, going, yeah, maybe. I'm so silly sometimes. Why not? See, there, yeah, it's got to go on there, it's got to go somewhere. I'm like, where can I put it? Dang it, where can it go? And I think that was when I decided to put it. I thought that was the best place for it. Yeah. Just looking at the card myself to see what where I've put it. Just flat. Don't always have to 3D or pop up stuff. I think also having two different depths with things like flowers or anything really gives it that different dimension, so it gives it a more realistic look. I mean, I know it's paper and ink, but it gives it that more realistic look about it, which I think is always fun. So here I was trying to show that I'm going to put basically the jar looks like it's floating in midair, and we need to ground it. So with any of your images, if you find that you haven't got, oh, this is a C1 Copic marker, I think it's cool grey, yeah, cool grey one. With any of your images, if they look like they're just floating in midair, all you have to do is this sort of thing to just ground it so that it looks like it's not floating up in the middle of nowhere. And then I tried to, oh, it's a bit out of focus here, sorry about that. I tried to give it a bit more, what's the word, like a shadow, just with the one marker, and you'll see I'll go backwards and forwards for a bit. So just trying to give some sort of shadow underneath, because I thought that would incorporate quite nicely. That's my desk, just saying, in case you can hear that noise in the background. So I'm just building up the layers. This, again, it's just one colour, and I keep going. I just went until I was happy with it. Sometimes I can faff too much, and then I think I've ruined it, and sometimes it works out really well. Like here, I think I was thinking, oh no, I've just wrecked it, because I've got all this like almost like modular shadow underneath. But no, then I've got to go back and I've got to add more, and eventually it comes right. So yeah, and you'll get used to that as well. You don't have to use a Copic marker. This was a Copic marker, which is an alcohol based marker. You don't have to use that. I did, because the other colours that I'd stamped with, the other images are all with watercolor, with water based ink. So I just thought that the alcohol ink, they wouldn't start to what's the word, they wouldn't move that ink. If I'd used a watercolor pen, oh, there you can see the texture on the faux water, shall we say, in the jar. If I'd used a water-based marker, I would have the image lines would have bled out, and it wouldn't have been a crisp line. Does that make sense? But if by using the alcohol marker, the two don't react together. So there's something to be aware of. So I've got a little phrase here from that same stamp set called Bless Your Heart, or that says Bless Your Heart. And I thought it's a nice little phrase. I've used it in the Berry Burst, just on the bottom corner. I honestly at this point had forgotten that I needed to put a sentiment on, so I kind of didn't think about spacing for that. So anyway, so this piece of cardstock, this is Sweet Sugar Plum, and it measures 11 long by 4 1/4, and then I scored it at 5 1/2 to create a top folding card. and I'm just going to stick the panel to the base card. Very simple. I'm not doing anything fancy, you know, no 10,000 layers of card and paper, which you can totally do, seriously. I just wanted to get this, you know, I don't know, I actually quite like the way it turned out. It's quite a simple card to create, and it's just using a load of different ink and colour, and not a lot of colouring in because of the two-step stamping, which is handy, but I quite like the white background and how sort of clean and simple it looks, but it's quite effective, I think. So I'm just getting the tape off. As another tip, if you've got tape like this, which, like I say, it's a lot cheaper to buy than some of the tape runners, unfortunately. If you use that and use I've got my Cricut craft pick thing, Tim Holtz has one, a pair of tweezers will work, sort of sharp tweezers, that works too, just to get underneath the tape, and then it lifts it off really easily, especially if you don't have nails. So that's basically the card, but I also decided to add some Nouveau accent drops. These are I think it's called Grey Mist, and they basically, this part, there's a few different ones, there's glitter ones, there's pearl ones, there's some glow in the dark ones as well, and you will obviously need to let this dry completely before you post it or put it away, but I love them. They self-level, which means that they actually look like little beads on, or like enamel dots on your card, and this one's got like a translucent effect, so when it dries, even though it's grey, it dries almost clear, and it's so lovely, so lovely. I think at some point here I'm trying to show you the depth that you get with them. Isn't that cool? And they're just self-level. They're amazing. So I've got to get me some more of them. Yeah. Don't we always need more, guys? Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully this voiceover malarkey will work this time, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.